Unsyndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
Anti-Ghost bringing us in. Are you familiar with their work, Shep? He's Shep. I'm Sean. So glad you could join us Monday night, Super Bowl week. I was all healed from my Lions goo-goo baby, feeling sorry for myself. And then it became Super Bowl week this morning, and I went right back to goo-goo baby, feeling sorry for myself, Shep. And then I screamed at the top of my lungs, push all your chips in and go get Myles Garrett. I don't care what it costs you. Go do it. Go do it now. Hurry, run, do it. Don't think twice. Do it.
It's amazing. The league is amazing, isn't it? Myles Garrett says he wants to be traded. One would assume Cleveland's going to try to at least oblige it, right? And they're going to get a huge ransom, and rightfully so. The Rams informed Cooper Kupp at age 31, but only 3 years removed from his Triple Crown winning season, that they're going to trade him. I know this isn't going to be what we witnessed with the NBA over the weekend, where you had two superstars traded for one another, because usually in the NFL, it's for a player and some draft picks, unless it's the Herschel Walker deal, which we don't see anymore. But it's amazing how quickly things change. All it takes is the one guy you think can replace the former one guy.
Yep.
Like Puka Nacua in the Rams, right? He's their one, so they can trade Kupp and possibly draft one, right? I don't know what Cleveland will do outside of getting a number of first-round picks, but it's amazing how quickly things can change in the NFL with superstars.
Shep, it really is a point where I think we have to look at some of the moves that were made. Like, I go back to what the Rams did. The Rams made that all-in move. They felt that they were a Matthew Stafford-led team away from winning a Super Bowl. And I don't care. Look, the trade worked out wonderfully for Detroit. Jared Goff was better than any of us could imagine. We got the number ones, but it's about winning the Super Bowl. Period. End of story. Advantage Rams right now. Nobody wants to hear it. It was a win for us, but it's advantage Rams with winning a Super Bowl. If the Lions do that, then we can say checkmate, and we can have that conversation.
Or you can at least say it's equal. Because even if the
Absolutely.
Lions win the Super Bowl, we don't say that they necessarily won the trade. Look, the Rams, it's not like the Rams took a steep fall off, okay?
Yep.
They draft Verse, they draft Fisk. Suddenly that makes them better. It shows you how important it is, in the trenches. They get Nacua. Not that they're all picks from the Lions or anybody else that they've made trades with, but it's not like Detroit has kind of pulled the wool over their eyes. Yes, it's made Detroit better, but the Rams have stayed pretty relevant, Sean.
It's amazing. Tip of the cap, Shep, you're absolutely right. It wasn't a situation where win the Super Bowl and it's going to fall. It's just going to tumble back down and everything. They found a way after that 1 year where they had a ton of injury. They found a way to get themselves back into the playoff. And, they're obviously going to have to start thinking about a quarterback sooner rather than later, but that's not a bad roster at all.
No, I agree. I think there's a lot of people who did not want to see them in the playoffs. Lions fans is what I'm referring to. I don't think it didn't bother me that much, but look, that's a team that can be scary offensively. And because of those two big guys up front, and they've got decent linebackers and they've got some decent secondary work, that's a team that's still going to contend in the NFC West, don't you think?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. And Shep, conversely, I think if the Lions, and good evening to you, Tom, in London, Ontario, if the Lions decide that they're going to go all in on Myles Garrett, there's still enough here that will keep the Lions relevant for quite some time. I think right now, Shep, draft capital is so important. How much draft capital do the Lions need right now, honestly?
Yeah, quite honestly, Sean, I don't look at draft picks. Look, in the NFL, it's a little different. So you can't say the same thing about the NHL, Major League Baseball, or even the NBA. Okay, unless the NBA got a top 8 pick or so. But in the NFL, I do think you can better yourself with late first round picks. It wouldn't concern me all that much knowing that Detroit is going to be a threat, not just to win the division, but the conference and perhaps the Super Bowl for an extended period of time if you had to give up future ones, because those ones would be later in the first round pick. I would worry more about what you would have to give up off your current roster, because I love their safeties. I love their linebackers. I love, obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil. I don't want any of those guys necessarily to be touched. I love their, Penei Sewell and their offensive line, their wide receivers. If Jameson Williams was part of it, I wouldn't cry about it. But I wouldn't want to lose Laporta. I wouldn't want to lose Gibbs. I wouldn't want to lose Sewell and the guys I mentioned on defense. That leaves Cleveland going, what else could you give me? I don't know if there's a lot there that you would that Cleveland would be interested in if it wasn't one of those big name guys.
I really wonder if the Lions did something like, because listen, Cleveland's a disaster. They are a disaster. It's not just Myles Garrett. It's Deshaun Watson. It's the Deshaun Watson contract. And Shep, they're another cautionary tale. We've talked so much about Buffalo and Baltimore, about how it's not that easy. Shep, it wasn't that long ago. I was watching the Cleveland Browns with pure jealousy because the Browns were in the playoffs. They were beating the hell out of their longtime tormentor, Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was watching that game going, man, how cool would that be? To have that shot at the Bears in the playoffs or Green Bay in the playoffs and be able to do that. And it just went straight downhill. And I guess the reason I say that, it's not as easy and fast. It's not as easy as people make it out to be.
Sean, Kevin Stefanski was named Coach of the Year not once but twice. They had Baker Mayfield. Let me ask you this. Do you think it is expedited by Browns fans and Myles Garrett, knowing that they saw a guy they had under center who they thought was pretty damn good, go to Tampa and have the year he had with over 40 touchdowns, close to 5,000 yards, and one of the best quarterbacks, at least one of his best seasons of his career, probably the best season of his career, but one of the better quarterbacks, at least in the NFC this year, right? I would consider, look, if Tampa was a little bit better, Baker Mayfield might even be on the fringe of the MVP conversation. Do you think that's heightened everybody's frustration a little bit there in Cleveland and Myles Garrett?
I think so. Yeah. Hey, listen, give Baker Mayfield his flowers. Those are words I never thought would come out of my mouth, Shep. I'm serious. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. But, is he spectacular? No. Is he awe-inspiring? Nah. Is he getting the job done and a pretty darn good fit with a pretty darn good Tampa team? Yeah. And I have to acknowledge as such.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will say, well, look at his receivers, look at his offensive coordinator, even his tight ends, even I thought Bucky Irving was really good this year. Sure, but you could say that about a lot of really good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You could say that about Jalen Hurts. You could say that to a certain extent about Patrick Mahomes. You could say it about a lot of quarterbacks who've had really good seasons. Baker Mayfield happens to be one of those guys. He still got him the football. I thought he's had a great year. And you know what? I think he's one of those guys, Sean. I say this about Bryson DeChambeau an awful lot. How he was just the D-bag of all D-bags, according to people who didn't like him in golf. He switched. He changed people's opinions. I think Baker Mayfield's done the same thing.
Couldn't agree more.
No longer do they see him as an arrogant prick. They see him more as a guy who's, bounced back from some really hard times and really loves the game of football and appreciates his teammates. And I think more people are starting to understand that about him and almost embrace him, whereas before I think they couldn't stand him.
Austin asks, is Rakestraw a cause for concern for you guys? He was hurt, but barely played when healthy. When you have the injury bug like that, Shep, to me, the answer is until proven otherwise, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a concern. I think there's a huge question mark for me. And I think next year obviously is a really important year. I would tell you this, outside of Terrion Arnold, this draft class is somewhat concerning for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've got a long way to go. We shouldn't touch it yet.
Agreed.
But, how many guys were really strong contributors? Besides Arnold, maybe two guys. Sonogaki. It's just those two guys, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I was hoping for more. How's that? Is that okay? I was hoping for more from Enos Rakestraw.
You know what? I have some hope. I know it sounds crazy for Christian Mahogany. I really do. Yeah, and that's why Shep, honest to God, and I know we touched on this last week, but just in case people aren't listening, I'm going to be consistent about this. I think if you get too high or too low after a draft class after a year,
Yeah.
give it a couple years. I think we get a better view of it at that point in time. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point on Mahogany. Where is he going to play?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's not taking anybody's spot on the front five. Now, if they choose not to resign Graham Glasgow, if they choose not to resign Kevin Zeitler, which I think would be a huge mistake on Zeitler, then and Mahogany doesn't get some love there, then I think it's a reason for concern. He should be in there, right? But if Glasgow says goodbye or Detroit parts with him and Mahogany jumps into that left guard spot, then you should feel pretty good, right? Which, speaking of, I want your opinion on something like this. I read a Free Press article over the weekend where they had tabulated the results of the free agent poll questions, which people should go and which people should stay. Do you know the one free agent that more people wanted back than any other? It was Carlton Davis, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
The second most votes went to Derek Barnes.
I think he's a perfect fit. Now, are they going to do
sacks in 51 games, or 4 sacks in 51 games? Played 3 games this past year. You're going to give him more stay percentage votes than Kevin Zeitler, who, by the way, finished second on the offensive line to Dan Skipper. More people wanted Dan Skipper to stay as a swing tackle than the starting Pro Bowl right guard.
You know what that is. I mean, let's go, But Shep, with that being said, okay, if you're comparing the two, absolutely not. But I think as a Sam, I like Derek Barnes. I really do. I think there's a place for him. Now, the one thing we have to figure out are they going to be the same? Are they going to do as they did under Aaron Glenn? That might change situations. I mean, that's to be determined. But I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think for a Sam, I think that Derek Barnes is a really good fit there. I do.
Okay, fair enough. Here's always the follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen from him that makes you say that?
I think the way he put, I mean, obviously you have to take last year apart. I think the way that he plays the game, as I said, I think he's a perfect Sam. I do for what they do and what you want from that. He's a guy with an attitude. He's a guy that can hit, et cetera, et cetera. For me personally, I think that's a great fit. Those two things. Now, again, as you said, this town has a really weird way. And we've talked about this forever, whether it be Brandon Inge, we could go on with putting certain guys on a pedestal that they don't belong. Okay. Yeah. Dan Skipper, why can't I think of the guy, the long snapper who was there for 78 years? Why can't I think?
Don Muehlbach.
Yeah. For whatever reason, these are guys that end up like on a pedestal. I'm not playing that game because I think this guy has a fit. I'm also not putting him in the Pro Bowl. I just think it's but a piece of a puzzle if you're talking about running the same thing that they ran last year.
Yeah, but there's that old cliche, your best ability sometimes is your availability.
There's no doubt about that.
And I just don't see that. Let me put it this way. It's not that he's not athletic. Find me an NFL player who's not. And it's not that he doesn't fit. I just wonder how much longer you're willing to give. I think he gets a long leash from fans in Detroit because of a small snippet of his work, and they get caught up in something that they lack right now, which is pass rusher. And let's be honest, the reason people want him back is because they think he can rush the passer, when that has really never been put on display for an extended period of time. And it blows my mind that we collectively Lions Nation, Football Nation, will tell us you got to build from within. You got to get to right in the trenches. That's where we're our strongest. And they're going to vote Dan Skipper over Kevin Zeitler, Derek Barnes over Kevin Zeitler. I would argue of all the free agents, even Carlton Davis, Zeitler's the best of all of them. And he's the guy I'd want back before any of them, to be honest with you.
I think with a guy like Barnes, especially with his physicality. Now, again, Shep, you're right. Nobody can argue that. I'm willing to say last year was just an oddity. I mean, with all the injuries and he was just part of the thing. But I think with his physicality, I really do think that he can fit that Sam position very well. Disrupt, try to set the edge, get on top of the tight end and things like that. But that, I guess when I think about it, that's more using it, as you said, on a small sample size as opposed to anything else. But I guess that's all we have to go on right now. For me, I don't look at that as a quote unquote need right now, assuming he's healthy. And that's my assumption right now.
Got it. Right. Okay, cool.
Nick said, I can't imagine the Lions will want to give up what they need to get Myles Garrett. It seems like an anti-Holmes philosophy move.
So what do you think that would be? I mean, that's the first thing people have to ask themselves, because I remember last year or before the trade deadline, you and I talked about this. It's all about Max Crosby. It's all about Max Crosby. And I heard people say, I'd give up 3 firsts for him. I said, no, you wouldn't. That's ridiculous. You don't need to give up that much. Myles Garrett might be a different story. It might change your mind since he's a franchise player and considered one of the best to ever play at his position, at least in his era. The question you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to give up? That's first and foremost. So to say the Lions would or wouldn't might be a little short-sighted until you decide on what you think it would take to get him here.
I think we also have to come to the conclusion that if you're Cleveland right now, you're going to say the right things, and we don't plan on trading him. And no, we think he's part of the future, et cetera, et cetera. But are you kidding me? If you're Cleveland, wouldn't the greatest thing in the world that could happen for your woebegone franchise is an incredible bidding war starting? And Shep, going back to all those teams that we were talking about, that the Lions are now in that pack, okay?
Yeah.
The Bills, the Ravens, the Lions, all those teams that have been this close but haven't been able to crack the door yet. Heck yes, they're all going to line up. And if I'm Cleveland, you know what I do? I lie through my teeth. It is lying season right now. Not lion season, lying season. Hey, well, Shep just offered me this, and this. I don't know if you can better that. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to offer you this, and this. I would lie through my teeth and make that skyrocket. When all is said and done, I think there's going to be a pretty big bidding war for him. And whoever gets him is going to have to pay a hefty price.
Yeah, and the reason that you're more obliged to try and get rid of him is because first of all, he's made it public.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, you have so many needs. And thirdly, there are teams, like you said, who believe that that's their missing piece.
100%.
That's the one guy who can put them over the top. Many people thought it would be Zadarius Smith for Detroit to add to their defensive line. Not that he's the same player. But isn't it funny how much better Zadarius Smith was in Cleveland while he was playing opposite of Myles Garrett, because Garrett was drawing double teams? Here's what's dancing in everybody's who's a Lions fan. Here's what's dancing in their heads. Who are you going to double?
Yeah.
Hutchinson? No. Garrett? No. Aleem McNeil? No. Suddenly, you have a 3-headed monster. And it doesn't matter if Sean Baligian's playing inside next to them. There's no way you're going to stop those 3 beasts from getting to the quarterback. So you can understand why people would say, oh my gosh, if the door is open, what am I giving up? I'd be willing to you're going to have to give up football, NFL ready players right now. Cleveland's not going to do this for 3 first-round picks. They want talent coming back, and they should want talent coming back.
Shep, you know what's funny? Honest to God, I was thinking in my head before you even said it. You and I could go like to the Lions buffet table, and they could say, "Listen, we need you guys to put on 50 pounds, okay?" Hey, no problem, man. I can do that.
We can do that in your backyard, dude. We don't need their buffet table.
I could listen to me. I could go from I was 212 this morning. I could be 262 in 2 weeks, baby. You just you give me unlimited meat. I am at 262.
Sean, they want you to put on a good 50.
Okay.
Not a bad 50.
Okay. Well, then I'm screwed. But you know what? Even my fat ass could get out there and wreak some havoc in the middle of that line. Are you kidding me? You know what?
I would pay to see you go one-on-one with Kevin Zeitler at practice. Screaming.
I'd head slap him.
You can't use a hockey stick against him. You know that, right?
I would
you can't give him a BC two-hander.
I would go Deacon Jones on him. What's that? It's 1978 just called Zeitler. He would know what to do. No, you know what it reminds me of? Yeah, I gotta give Jim Schwartz credit. When people when people were crying, like, I don't know, like 13, 14 years ago about Ndamukong Suh's stats, and Schwartz would get that look on his face and go, "Are you serious? Like, are you new to football? What he does is not going to show up in stats. He's the greatest disruptor. Look what he did for Cliff Averill. Look what he did for him. Shep, now you got 3 guys like that on your line. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. And here's the other thing about those 3 guys. And you mentioned them, Ndamukong Suh. You may not have liked them. You may not have appreciated the stomp. You didn't like the attitude. It's funny how people in Detroit hated the stomp. Oh, my God. How dare you? It's unsportsmanlike. But they cheer Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn. But I digress. But Ndamukong Suh posted every game. Every practice he was there, he played hard. Every game he was there and played hard. The dude was durable, and he was a badass. Every single Sunday. You knew what you were getting out of him. What I like most about Myles Garrett and Hutchinson and McNeil when they're healthy is you can count on them. They are noticeable every single game. And Garrett, obviously, we're talking about, is he the best? TJ Watt's pretty damn good. Trey Hendrickson, I think, is really underrated for Cincinnati. I really like him. Max Crosby, obviously. Aiden Hutchinson's in that conversation. He's one of the best, not just defensive ends. He's probably one of the best players in all of football.
I like what Pete said. Okay, there, Conrad Dobler. Way to go. See, 19. That was a nasty man. All right, who's going to be nastier? I will bite your face, Conrad.
Way to protect for Jim Hart. Nice job. We appreciate it.
And his hip. Hey, if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by those 2 guys right there, the Hanson brothers, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are, and that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world is a complex one. That's why I don't do it. I ask Mike Husak and Jeff Husak, the great guys at the Wealth Advantage Group. And it's time for you to work with an expert. So reach out to the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Want to get your thoughts on Jack Flaherty coming back for sure. Okay?
I want to, real quick. Tom says Pistons down by 9.5. You shouldn't be losing to Atlanta. I love that aspect about the Pistons right now. We're looking at teams that would be bad losses rather than we're just hanging in there. Congrats to Cade Cunningham for being an all-star, rightfully so. Love what he did last night, losing, just 3 turnovers. I look at that. I look at, the shooting, it was under 50%, not great. He had a double-double, but I look at the turnovers and I look at how graceful he is as a passer. I'm really happy that kid's an all-star. So that's really cool. Jack Flaherty coming back. I love the contract. So I hate 2 of the signings in the offseason, and I really like the other 2.
Bishop, that's so funny. Go ahead. I feel the exact same way. The people that were going crazy about some things a few days ago, I just wasn't feeling it. I feel different right now. I really do. I want more. There's still some holes, especially in that lineup, but sorry to interrupt.
No, you're okay. The Cobb and Torres additions to me, and I hope I'm wrong, make no sense. They just make no sense. I know it's only 1 year, 15 mil for each guy. That's fine. Torres weakens your infield defense. I think their defense on the infield stinks right now. Shortstop, Sweeney's a good shortstop. Not much of a stick there, but how great of a fielder is he? He's not going to make people forget Alan Trammell, Ozzie Smith, or Cal Ripken.
Yeah.
Gleyber Torres is the worst defensive fielding second baseman in all of baseball. And then you've got, of course, Colt Keith, who's never played first base, and he's going over there. I don't know what they're going to do at third. If it's Jace Young, then that's an even bigger problem. I like Matt Vierling. I don't think he's an everyday third baseman. So I don't like the Torres signing. I really like the Tommy Kahnle signing because it's only 1 year, $7.75 million. Yes, he's had injury problems. There's a lot of guys who have, but when healthy, he's a good player, really good out of the bullpen. I think that's a really good signing because it's not long risk and it's not financially strapping to you. And I think the same thing with Jack Flaherty. The only thing I wish with Jack Flaherty was that the second year was a team option rather than a player option. But I thought it was really creative by Scott Harris and company, and I really liked the signing. So good for them.
Well, and I think with Tommy, especially now, it means Bo Brisky might only have to pitch 5 days a week as opposed to the 7 days a week that he was pitching. So
that's a good point. Yeah. I want to give him a little bit of a rest. Yeah.
Thing. And it's funny. Hold on. Let me. The coach, Kirk Hunter, said Tiger's still serious about Bregman from the sounds of it. But Shep, that's not
the question. The question is he serious about them?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the question.
You got and Shep, it is. I couldn't agree with you more. I know nobody wants to hear it because we all fell in love with some of these pieces, but we have to understand what some of these pieces are. We have to understand what Kerry Carpenter is. We have to understand that he's going to have to sit against certain pitchers, and I don't think I need to go further than that. And Matt Vierling, again, nice piece. He had some nice moments. You cannot be serious. I feel like John McEnroe. You cannot be serious if you're going to throw Matt Vierling at me 162 games a year and into the playoffs. I'm sorry. That tells me you're not serious about really going out there and doing some of the things that we want to be done.
Yeah, I think what's really important for people to remember too, Sean, is when you look at the best teams in baseball, their starters are throwing 900 innings, close to 900 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Detroit starters didn't throw 800 last year. And when people look at their starting rotation, Tarek Skubal, check. Jack Flaherty, check. Okay. Because he was good with Detroit and the Dodgers last year. Even though his ERA elevated a little bit when he went to LA. And then you're going to go to, in no particular order, but then you're going to go to Reese Olson. Reese Olson's, how many innings are you going to get out of him? Maybe 150.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Okay.
Alex Cobb, who had 2 or 3 starts last year, but he is a guy who has logged innings. You could see, 160 plus. So that would work. And then you got Jackson Jobe, who I really like. I think you do too. He's not throwing 150, or he's not going to throw more than 150 innings, folks.
They're not going to let him.
It's his first. They're not going to let him. Casey Mize never has. So even if he's your 6th starter, what's going to happen with that? You need guys, and I know that you don't expect them to start every single game, but you're going to need more starters than what they have right now, number one. And number two, you need guys who can go deeper into games, man, because that's how good teams win. Look it up. Look at the starting pitchers, not total innings, just the starting pitchers. Those teams that have their starters going deep, there's a reason Kansas City made the playoffs. There's a reason the Dodgers were in the hunt. There's a reason the Yankees were in the hunt. Their starting staffs go deep into games, or at least give you innings up around that point. And then you got to look at wins above replacement. The best teams in baseball, look at where their WAR is, and look at where Detroit's WAR is. So when people talk about Alex Bregman, great. He's a 4-WAR player. Wasn't last year, but and it's for his career. That's a really important statistic. You get a the highest wins above replacement player for Detroit last year was Tarek Skubal. But as a position player, it was Matt Vierling at 2.8.
Right.
Okay. Now that's a all-star level WAR. It really is for someone who plays every day. He's not playing every day. You got Colt Keith, who's a 1-1 WAR player, right? I mean, these guys got to elevate their game. Gleyber Torres, he's a 1-8 WAR player. You're not getting a ton out of that. Gibby used to go through this on our broadcast all the time, and I forget the exact number. I'll have to go back and look at my notes. But how do you total up WAR to get to more than 40 on your team? You better get there. If you can't, you're not going to be a threat to anybody, whether it be the division or the league championship.
I think this is the year Humberto Sanchez and Matt Manning break through anyway. I mean,
you want to fight? Yeah, you want to fight? Yeah, come on.
This is it. This is it. Hey, let me talk to you about Legacy. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners and my family by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you some money. We all want to do that nowadays, don't we? Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. Enter Legacy Partners. Give them a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes.
So Sean, do you like the deal? Do you like that they signed Jack Flaherty?
I like that they signed Jack Flaherty, and I like that Jack Flaherty wanted to be here. I'm sorry, that still counts for me, Shep. I really do. Right. I do. I mean, of course, somebody throws money at him. He wants to be here. But, that was the stuff that you heard even months ago. And the funny thing is, and I can't take credit for this, I heard Neil say it earlier today. Shep, how often do you hear fans say, well, we can trade this guy away, but guess what? At the end of the next year, he can come back. You hear guys say it all the time, and it never, ever happens. I mean, Thomas Plekanec was a guy that I remember that happened. It just doesn't work that way. This is one of those times it worked. And, oh, by the way, the Tigers got a couple pieces that let's see what happens with those pieces that they got from Flaherty. So really right now it's kind of a win-win situation. But I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. As good as he was at times last year, let's also accept the fact that, boy, doesn't it seem like once every 4 or 5 starts, he doesn't just get bombed, he gets bombed. I mean, but I was at the game. I went to Milwaukee last year. I think I told you I went to Milwaukee last year.
Cool. Yeah,
and we were all excited. Okay, Flaherty's on the mound. He was bad, Flaherty.
We lost Sean, I think. Did we lose?
Yeah, it looks like we lost Sean.
Yeah, I think we lost Sean.
There he is.
I don't know what happened.
Flaherty in Milwaukee, but it didn't work out. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hi, how are you?
So you good. So you were saying, so you saw him and he was bad Jack.
He was bad Jack, and that's the thing about him. Look, he took a big step last year and he shook off all that stuff. I think we also have to understand that this is a guy that I think consistency has been an issue. And listen, no pitcher goes out there all the time and is schooled, so to speak. But I don't know, just to me, when he gets bombed, he gets bombed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so did you and I in college, but I hear what you're saying. For me, I know it matters to you. I don't care that the guy wants to be here. I mean, I think it's important. I don't know many guys, like you just said, who are going to sign a $36 million contract and want to be here. He wanted to be in Los Angeles too last year, didn't he? Because it's his hometown and friends and family got a chance to see him. And don't tell me if the Dodgers came to him with the exact same contract, he wouldn't have stayed in LA. He's got a chance to win another ring there, almost guaranteed, because their backups are better than most teams' starters. So to me, there's plenty of guys who, especially baseball players, it's not like they're living here year round.
Right.
There's, who really liked it here? There's a lot of players we've seen come through who really liked it here and ended up leaving. Matthew Stafford was one of them. Okay, really liked it here, but was frustrated with the whole situation with the Lions. And who could blame him? Myles Garrett said that he wanted to stay in Cleveland. Cooper Kupp said, I wanted to finish my career in Los Angeles. Luka Doncic said, I wanted to finish my career in Dallas. I think things are going to be all right for those guys, but it doesn't matter whether they want to be there or not. What matters most is, are they going to be productive and where the money is for the most part with these guys. Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you about Lindsey Broadwell. When it comes time to getting yourself a new house, you're buying, you're selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? That lady right there. Lindsey Broadwell, your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsey grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. So when it's time to move, our friend Lindsey and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsey at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, I like Todd McClellan. I like Todd McClellan when he was here. One of my very good friends played for him in Houston. I think you're familiar with his work, Mark Beaufet. Both swears by him. Just swears by him. I got a chance to know Todd a little bit when he was out here. He lived out near me. Great guy. The thing that I love about Todd McClellan is how he keeps things in perspective. And something that he said yesterday was pretty cool, because it could have been a time to stick out your chest. It could have been a time to say, here we come, all those things. And you know what he said? He goes, we got ourselves back in the picture. We're basically back to the starting line. Right. And I loved hearing that. I think he's got a way of keeping things in perspective and, dare I say, dangling the carrot out in front of this hockey team to not rest on the way that they've been playing. And my gosh, has it been working?
Yeah, you know what? It reminds me a little bit. Tom Izzo said this a couple of games back. I know they just lost to USC, but prior to that, as you know, they were on a 13-game rule. Mm-hmm. And I think it was after 12 straight wins, he said, we're pretty good, but we're not going to get too full of ourselves and all the other cliches. When a coach says we're pretty good, you know they're better than pretty good, at least in his eyes. I think Todd McClellan knows when his team is healthy and playing with the structure that they play with, that they can be better than pretty good. Not that they're a Stanley Cup threat, not that they're a threat to win the division or even the conference, but strange things can happen in hockey. You know that better than I do. It doesn't happen quite as often in basketball. You'll see an upset, but generally, it's not always chalk, but if you're a 1 or 2 or a 3 seed, you're generally going to be there, right? Hockey, you see more upsets perhaps than any other sport with the depth of that playoff seeding and pairings. I think Detroit has proven something to themselves, and I think to the rest of the league, and McClellan acknowledged as much recently. I don't give a crap who they have and who they don't. You go into Edmonton, you win. That's a pretty damn good win. You go into Vancouver, I mean, of course, it's without Quinn Hughes, but that's a pretty damn good win. That is not an easy trip. Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Seattle tomorrow night. A good friend of mine told me 2 weeks ago, let's see what happens over this next 2-week stretch. I think that good friend is probably gone, you know what? They're pretty good when they play the way Todd McClellan wants them to play.
4-2 over the Habs, 2-0 over the Lightning, 5-2 over the Kings, 3-2 over the Oilers, 3-1 over the Flames, and 3-2 over the Canucks. They're unbeaten. I never in a million years would have thought that. I mean, total props.
So tell me why.
I think a couple things come into play. I think I have always felt, in particular, that Alex DeBrincat is a guy that needs a facilitator. And I think he and Dylan Larkin, I think that's a special thing right now. I saw that with Alex when he was in junior. I think you saw that when he was with Prime Kane in Chicago. I think he's a guy that is better when there is a facilitator, a guy that can get him the puck. And I think you're seeing that right now. I think the much maligned and rightfully so defense core, they've been able to go with a couple of youngsters right now, and these youngsters don't look out of place at all. And that's the type of thing. Shep, I know talking with you 4 or 5 years ago I got sick of hearing about all these myths. Okay. And the difference between what the Tigers were doing and how they were constantly kicking the can down the road, wait till this, wait till that, is you're seeing these guys. You're watching Casper grow up in front of our eyes. What an incredible month he had. You're watching Edvinsson grow up right in front of our eyes. So right now you've been able to out of necessity, you've been able to kind of lean on some young players that don't look out of place, that I think are growing confidence as well. That stuff is as contagious as the negativity stuff. It really is. And I go back to late November when they called up Sebastian, and you and I talked about it. I thought it was pretty damning when you had the captain of the hockey team saying, Sebastian kind of gave us the boost that we needed. And I kind of wish he would have stuck around because, this is a team that needed a boost. I thought that was very telling. I don't think Dylan meant it that way, but at the same time, it was very, very telling to me. And now, you're watching them with these young guys and the youthful exuberance and all coming out there and showing, okay, I'm ready for prime time. And to me, that's the kind of stuff that has taken them next level. It really
I think the goaltending, Talbot and Lyon have been really good. And you said this even a year ago, that Alex Lyon was not necessarily a one, but look at what he did for Florida in a backup or a shared role. It's not fair to call him a backup, but they share the net. And he was good enough last night, 25 saves. Talbot was really good with 45 saves the other day. So I give them a ton of credit. And you're right. The young guys, Casper, Johansson, Soderblom, Edvinsson, all those guys, even Berggren, look at how he has taken off since Todd McClellan took over. And last year, and even again reiterated at the beginning of this year, you said this is the time for Steve Yzerman. And I was one of those guys who said, you know what? He's got to take a lot of the blame. And he made the change. Give him credit. He made the change where he was supposed to as the head coach. And the draft picks are showing through that they are legit. You can see why Steve Yzerman has an eye for talent. Lucas Raymond's the best player from that draft. And the other guys have been stabilizing forces. You just mentioned they don't look out of place. Marco Kasper looks like a top 6 forward.
Unbelievable January. Really unbelievable January. He really did.
That's tough to keep up. You and I both know that. That's really hard to keep up. But you got to start somewhere.
Keep it in perspective. No doubt.
Damn good. Yep.
Yeah. Shep, and thank you for the kind words, but I'm going to tell you, I had multiple NHL general managers tell me the general rule of thumb, especially in a situation like Detroit, and this is not making excuses for Steve Yzerman. He took over a disaster. He really did. He took over, and so 2 different general managers, one out in the West and one in the East, told me people don't understand. It really is a quote unquote 5-year plan. So for me, the clock started this year, and I think what he did, and you touched on this. Steve's mistake was hiring a guy that shouldn't have been a head coach.
Right.
And I have no problem saying it. Great guy. I know you've talked to him. I haven't talked to him as much. Great guy. I have nothing negative to say about that. But when multiple guys I know told me after he was hired, I'm not so sure about this. This is more of a specialty coach. I don't know if he has quote unquote head coach written all over him. That's pretty much what we saw. In his tenure with the Detroit Red Wings, that's pretty much what we saw. And I think it ended up being his undoing.
Yeah, they sure look like they're, and who am I to say? But I think, I don't always watch the puck. I watch away from the puck. I think they're better at puck retrieval. A friend of mine told me it's amazing what you can do when you have the puck, and they're better in that regard. And I think they're better structured. I mean, I hate to sound too simplistic, but I don't think you have to overthink it either. And I think
No.
they're much better structured.
I was, by the way, Alan said, when is the trade deadline? It's coming up March 7th. So after the
It'll
formation.
be interesting, won't it? It'll be interesting because this is really an interesting time for a team like the Pistons and the Red Wings. You have some young talent. Now the Red Wings have more. Remember, Marco Casper is only 20 years old. So you how bad do you want to hold on to some of the young guys? And knowing if you want to add to it, oftentimes you have to give up something. What is it you're willing to give up? I'm not suggesting you give up any of these certain young guys. I like Johansson a lot. I like Edvinson. I don't know why you'd ever part with that when he's going to be, he's a top line defenseman. I like what I've seen from Soderblom for the most part. Casper, there's no way. Other teams aren't going to want, I wouldn't think, guys like Rasmussen, Veleno, or guys like that. But it'll be interesting to see what Steve Yzerman does and how he tinkers with just enough to get him over that finish line to make the playoffs.
Tom said, as you said, Sean, it was Dave Lewis when he took over from Scotty Bowman. It was never going to work. And Shep, I think Louis, hell of a guy, one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
Never was going to work. Nope. Never, ever. And you don't have to take my word for it. Ask any of the guys from that team.
Some guys are just assistant coaches.
Right.
In every sport, okay?
Yes.
Just because you're next man up doesn't mean you're the right man up.
Yep. Alan said, is it like baseball? Do you trade away your prospects or draft picks to get a superstar? I wouldn't say in the NHL you get superstars at the deadline. You just don't. You don't get good players. You get maybe expiring contracts, but the superstars get locked up now. I mean, they just you see those long-term $8, $9, $10 million contracts and everything. But
that would take a toll on your cap.
100%.
Because you've got Larkin for 7 years, Sider for 8 years, Raymond for 8 years, or whatever it is. It's Sider might be 7, but I thought it was 8, right? So you're not getting. I'd love Austin Matthews, but you're not getting Austin Matthews. No. Connor McDavid's not going anywhere. Leon Draisaitl's not going anywhere. I mean, those guys just don't get moved. They're built around, not in exchange for.
Yep. One more thing before we get out of here, Shep. Let me first tell you about All About Catering. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. Maybe you need to put on some weight so you can play interior lineman for the Lions. Shep and I are going to be on our weight-gaining regimen. All About Catering can take care of that as well. Rick and his gang make customer service and satisfaction their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Tell them we sent you. I promise you, Rick and his staff will take care of you. Shep, Super Bowl's coming up. I'm going to say it again to everybody out there. Shut up. You're going to watch it. Don't be a baby. Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. You're going to watch it. Yeah. I don't think
I'll walk away at the halftime show, but I'm going to watch the game.
I don't watch any of that stuff. Seriously, Shep, I watch the Habs before the game starts every year. They play a matinee game. And then I never watch any of the pregame stuff. Sorry. It just doesn't entertain me. Around 6:15, I tune in, and then it's time to go eat my 4th or 5th meal at halftime. I don't care about any of that stuff. No offense to anybody else.
Right. Same without the 5 meals. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Who do you think wins? Do you really? No crap. I almost swore.
I think Philly. I mean, their offensive line really impressed me.
Oh, arguably the best in the league. Really,
yeah,
I see that Detroit exists.
Here's my concern: if you're an Eagles fan. How are you going to move the ball without running it? Because I don't trust Jalen Hurts throwing the football, and Kansas City's going to force him to throw the football. Now, Washington probably had the same philosophy, but weren't able to do it. So, and I think Philly's defense, what they did against Washington, specifically against Jaden Daniels, could be a recipe for success. I trust a lot with Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo because of their been there, done that. But I really think Philly offensively can keep it away from Kansas City. So I'm going to take the Eagles.
I I think Philly is going to lead for 59 minutes and 48 seconds, and then Kansas City's going to score a touchdown because that's what they do, and that's what the script says. And who am I to argue with the script, Shep? I am not going to argue with the script. No,
so it was written by Hollywood actors. You know that, right?
That's exactly. No, honestly, I have felt this way all year. I honestly think Kansas City is going to be the first three-peat. I do. Would my jaw drop if Philly won this? No. You and I talked about it weeks ago. This is a damn good team, and I give Nick Sirianni a lot of credit for getting this team back from the brink of disaster. But there's just something magical going on.
Well, you and I will bet a brisket sandwich on it. Okay.
How about I just make one, and you can come over and
That's where I was going.
All right, Todd, you come over as well. Hey, enjoy, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Right, you too, pal. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks, Todd. Peace out.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.